Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and most importantly, happy Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in to another jam-packed episode of the Brew City Lounge, home of your 2021 NBA champions, those Milwaukee Bucks. I am your host, Brandon. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. And go ahead and follow the show on Facebook, on Twitter. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Brew City Pod. Very excited for you guys to be tuning in. If you are on the live stream, good afternoon. Happy Friday. If you're like me, my days are all screwed up from a week of chaos. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for giving the show a listen. It is greatly appreciated. As always, an absolute honor and privilege to be here talking about our favorite teams. Of course, I'm talking about those championship Milwaukee Bucks and first place Milwaukee Brewers. And I promise to all my Brewers listeners out there, I will get back to the Brewers. I've been abusive towards the Brewers the last 2 weeks or so with this Bucks.
Yeah, they've been a little overshadowed, haven't they? Yeah.
So I promise I'll get back to the Milwaukee Brewers. Tons to talk about. Bucks are world champions. We're going to obviously talk about that. We're going to talk about that Giannis performance in the finals. Was it the greatest performance maybe we have ever seen? I'll talk a little bit about the championship celebration for that happened yesterday. But I do have a special guest of the show, as you guys can see. Bringing in a special guest of the show is brought to you by the folks over at One Call Technology. Give them a call at 888-585-8850 for all your cable and telecom needs. Alex Strofe of ESPN Madison. And, of course, our friends over at Game On Wisconsin. You can find him on Twitter at Alex_Strofe. Alex, the Milwaukee Bucks are world champions. How are you doing?
Yeah, if you could see between the smile on my face and the bags under my eyes, it's been a hell of a week, man. That is just freaking awesome. I mean, obviously we've heard this story over and over, so I'll tell it quick. But I mean, 8 years ago, there was talk about Milwaukee, the Bucks leaving Milwaukee potentially. This was a 15-win team. They just won 16 games in the postseason alone. So pretty incredible stuff. And it's been a hell of a week, man. Really, really fun stuff.
I'm not, Alex. We'll talk about the celebration yesterday. I don't know if you were able to be a part of it. We'll definitely talk about it. I was there yesterday.
Nice.
And I got home last night and I looked over at my girlfriend and she was she asked me if everything was all right. And I was kind of sad. I was like, I don't know. Like I should be elated right now and just going nuts. And I'm almost sad that it's over. Like I've been a Bucks fan my whole life. The Packers have always been like my first love. Football is very dominant in Wisconsin for those that have no idea. But my second love has always been the Bucks. And after they drafted Giannis, I grew up with the Ray Allen and the Glenn Robinson era. I'm 31, so I saw some terrible basketball as I'm sure you have. And then you draft a guy out of Greece and you're like, okay, it's another draft pick in which they're experimenting something on. And now they're talking about the statue outside the Pfizer Forum for that Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I'm just a little sad, Alex. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little sad. It's over. I'm relieved. It's been stressful. It's been fun, but I'm a little sad that we're kind of concluding the celebration.
No, I totally get you there. It's so many years in the making to go back to that 15-win season, the beginning of Giannis, obviously the addition of Chris way back in the 2013-14 season. And then you fast forward 8 years and holy smokes, they're world champions. It's pretty incredible. And to think of the bumps in the road over the course of the last few years alone, right? The Toronto Eastern Conference Finals 2 years back where you really thought, that should have been your series.
Mm-hmm.
The following year in the bubble, they just don't show up. Obviously, a lot of things, back at home were happening. And of course, the COVID thing. So no fans. I mean, this team plays great at home, as we've seen all season and postseason for the last several years. So it was good to see so many people, 18,000 in the arena, 65,000 plus outside the arena. It was a pretty awesome ending to what was a crazy story of these Milwaukee Bucks. And hopefully it's only the beginning, but we know how the NBA is. And to see the parity that's back in the National Basketball Association is pretty unreal, because several years ago, right, when the Bucks were not very good, the same teams were winning over and over and over. And now we've got fresh pace. Obviously, both the Western Conference Finals and Eastern Conference Finals saw teams that haven't been there in forever. So it's awesome to have parity back in the league. But hopefully the Bucks can go in a second straight next year.
It's great to see what the owners and we'll get. I'm gonna start from the offseason of this past year, and we're gonna kind of work our way through the whole playoffs and get your thoughts on it. I just think it's so awesome. And I'm also going to talk to you about the Deer District. You were there Tuesday. I was there Tuesday. When the owners provided this plan back in, 2015, 2014, for the Pfizer Forum, for the Deer District, we were all kind of like, yeah, okay, that'd be great. And then to see Tuesday, well, yesterday as well, but Tuesday, TMJ4, a news station out of Milwaukee, is reporting that there was over 100,000 fans outside watching that game on Tuesday. And to see all of that kind of come into place was something special. It's emotional, and it's really great to see. And I'm going to get your thoughts on the Deer District as well, and kind of how that environment was for you and how it was for me. But I do want to start with a look back at this team, Alex, and where they began. Going in from last year, they obviously lose in the bubble, second round fallout down in Orlando. And it was kind of an off season of a lot of question marks. What are you going to do with Drew Bledsoe or Eric Bledsoe? What are you going to do Is Giannis going to sign the Supermax? It was kind of like that dark cloud that was over our heads. And we were already being told where Giannis was going to go. We were told why he wasn't going to be in Milwaukee. We were told why the Bucks shouldn't be in, the city of Milwaukee. As a fan of this Milwaukee Bucks team, looking back at your thoughts last summer, what were you thinking going into this year with this team?
I mean, obviously not as confident as I was feeling like a week ago, right? I mean, I didn't realize all the moves that would take place and all the changes that would happen, right? We realized that Eric Bledsoe wasn't the guy. I think after two postseasons with him at the helm, you realize they needed an upgrade and they needed a real third fiddle behind Chris Middleton and obviously Giannis. So when they went and acquired Drew Holiday, I mean, that was where you started to think, okay, but is that enough? Then they try to go out and get Bogdanovich, and that falls flat, right? Just absolute. That is still crazy to me how that went down and then they end up winning the title. But that was a nuts move. And you thought, okay, maybe that'll get them over the hump. They don't end up getting him. It's all okay. They got guys like PJ Tucker and Bobby Portis, guys you definitely want on your side in a bar fight, right? And that's the energy. PJ Tucker kept saying it over his I don't want to call it stupor, but he was certainly drunk during the celebration yesterday. He kept saying, we're dogs, man. We dogs. We're dogs. And they proved that. And, they always had more faith than I think initially a lot of us maybe did. We were very skeptical of what this team was capable of, if they could finally get over that hump. You can only play who's in front of you. So I don't want to hear, they got lucky with injuries. I hate that argument. You can only play who's in front of you. And they won. So pretty incredible stuff, man. What a ride it's been. And I didn't even touch on, right before the start of the season when Giannis is like, let's do this. I'm going to stay put. And now winning a title before his Supermax even kicks in, it just tells you, man, the future is still bright. Despite the fact you just reached the total pinnacle of your sport.
Yeah, and I'm with you on a lot of those. I have a theory on the Bogdanovich.
Oh, here we go. I like
this. I kind of have a theory. I brought it up on my show a couple days ago. I'll get to it in a minute. But going back from last year, they lose in the second round. And honestly, I'm not taking anything away from the Lakers or the Miami Heat, who eventually made the NBA Finals, but it just didn't feel like, it was just really weird. Like the Bucks were on course for a historic season. I mean, they were on pace for 70 wins. They were the number one seed in the East. Unfortunately, a pandemic hits. Nobody in the world thought that would ever happen. You stop basketball for 3 months or 4 months, whatever it was. You completely take any momentum away that the Milwaukee Bucks acquired on their way up until that midpoint in March when the league canceled the season. And then you restart, and you heard Giannis talk about it. I think it was either a pre or post game press conference where he mentioned that team was a family oriented team. They felt out of place down in the bubble. Again, credit to Adam Silver and the guys and the ladies over at the NBA for getting the NBA season back on it and finishing it. But it just wasn't what the Bucks were used to. It took them out of their element. It took everybody out.
It took everybody out, right?
Yeah. So, but again, there was a lot of question marks. Coach Bud's future. He's coming up on his final year of his contract. Was he going to be extended? Was Giannis going to be extended? And then I remember exactly where I was, it sounds weird because not like it's a crazy story. The Bogdanovich trade happens, and I'm about to go to bed at night. I had work the next morning, and my phone blows up with the Adrian Wojnarowski. The Bucks acquired Bogdanovich, and I'm like, holy crap! And then 5 minutes later, it's a Drew Holiday trade, and you're like, holy crap! Like, Giannis is going to stay because they're doing everything that he wants them to do. Him and his brother are good friends with Bogdanovich. Obviously out of the European League as well. And I'm like, dude, this is nuts. Like, we got Drew Holiday. We've been looking for a guy to complement Giannis, more so than obviously Eric Bledsoe did. And then obviously we fast forward a couple weeks and the Bogdanovich trade gets nixed. And it's kind of like, okay, now he's not going to sign the Supermax because whatever the reason.
You really thought that would be the defining move.
I didn't think it would be the defining move. I think I think that the organization, John Horst and the ownership group felt the pressure of having to do something. You lose 2-0, you're up 2-0 and you eventually lose against the Toronto Raptors in 2019. Then you get bounced early and then you're looming with Giannis. Like, is he going to stay or is he not going to stay? Looking back, we all should have known what his answer was going to be. He obviously is the most loyal person, I think, in professional sports.
Right.
But
he's perfect.
So you look at it and you're like, well, crap, is that, what's going to happen with that? And then obviously December 15th rolls around and he eventually signs the Supermax. But this is kind of a question I have for you. And I promise to everybody listening that we'll get to some Bucks talk, about their actual play on the court. If they acquired Bogdanovich, here's my theory. Then I'll let you say I'm either crazy or dumb.
All right. Do I need to get up my tinfoil hat for this?
No, okay. It's not that crazy. But here's a real thought though. If they acquired, Bogdanovich and he played with the Bucks uniform on, I do not think that they go out and sign Bobby Portis because that happened after the Bogdanovich trade. And here's the kicker. Here's the real big one. They probably don't go out and trade for PJ Tucker.
Probably not.
And I think they won that championship Tuesday, not only because of PJ Tucker. Obviously, Giannis is the most dominant player in the universe, but they won.
Huge. I mean, those two players you mentioned, right? They played a huge role in that crucial Game 6. So, not a crazy theory by any means. You look at what Bogdan probably could have brought, which was, maybe some fire they needed in that lineup, but they were able to fill that role other ways. Obviously, Pat Connaughton was really big in the playoffs. Without Dante, I mean, injuries happen, right? So there's so many hypotheticals we could juggle around. But I mean, at the end of the day, they made the right moves. John Horst obviously felt the pressure, as you mentioned last offseason. If the bubble was good for one thing, I think it was really good for lighting a fire under some asses, and you need that in professional sports. And with the Giannis news looming, with obviously being the top team in the regular season in the Eastern Conference the previous 2 years and not being able to even get to the finals, let alone win one. There was a lot of, I don't want to say hot seats, burning, but it was getting to that level, right? I mean, obviously the hot seat was certainly under Mike Budenholzer. I mean, there was no doubt about that. It was on Mike Budenholzer if they lost that Nets series. I think Rick Carlisle is probably the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks right now if Kevin Durant's shoe size is one smaller. So, pretty nuts how it works out.
Yeah, and it's funny because there was reports, I forgot who had it. Somebody had it. They actually said because Rick Carlisle actually committed to the Pacers right after the Nets lost to the Bucks because he was holding out in the event that they did lose. I'm assuming, hypotheticals, of course. I don't know if it's reported or.
I mean, you don't know if they were going to even interview him for the job, but we never got there. And that's going to be one of the great mysteries of this run, right? I mean, Mike Budenholzer is not the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks next year if they didn't make the finals. I would even maybe argue, let alone win them. I think the hot seat was burning. People, I mean, less than a month ago, people on Twitter, every profile picture I saw was #FireBud. And here we are, world champion. It's just it's interesting how that stuff works out. I mean, things come at you fast in professional sports, and he just secured his job. I mean, he had to have, right? They're not going to get rid of him now. So pretty nuts.
So you look back, okay, so the Bucks get Drew Holiday. They get, they acquire, they sign Bobby Portis. They sign Brid Forbes. Giannis signs the Supermax, which we were all kind of, it was the most I'm positive, but I'm not positive thing in the world. Like I remember exactly where I was for that moment as well. It's one of those things I'll never forget. Bobby Portis, Brid Forbes, you get Drew Holiday in the offseason. You kind of going into the season, you lock up Chris Middleton. Eventually in the season, Drew Holiday signs his extension. So the core of guys are locked up. Brooke Lopez is still as well signed for a few more years. And then you look kind of throughout the season, and they kind of just played along all year. We were all calling for them to get in better position as far as seeding goes. You don't want to play Brooklyn on the road. You don't want to play Philly on the road. It almost feels like, and obviously it's easier to say this now because of what happened in the playoffs, and obviously the Milwaukee Bucks are champions. It almost felt like they knew how good they were. They just needed to make sure when they got there that they were healthy. Mentally, I think they were obviously stronger, but all year it kind of felt like they were just dragging along, working out things. You heard Coach Bud talk about it, trying different things. What were your thoughts before, the regular season, obviously going into the playoffs?
Well, title runs are all about one thing, right? It's about peaking at the right time. So I don't think there was really that sense of urgency or, pessimism in that locker room or really within that organization that if they weren't the 1 or 2 seed, they're not going to get it. They knew they could win on the road. They knew how good they were. They knew how consistent they've been the last several years. And you're right. It's about trying new things. It's about making adjustments, which I think we can now compliment Coach Budenholzer on, which is weird again, because we weren't doing that 2 months ago. But, overall, right, I mean, they tried new things. They mixed up lineups. They brought in different pieces throughout the course of the season. You mentioned one, obviously, in PJ Tucker. So it's just a matter of they wanted to peak at the right time this go around rather than, which I think it's fair to say in the last 2 seasons that had been in the regular season where it didn't translate to the postseason because other teams came, more ready. They were just peaking at the right time, to use the same phrase. And we saw that this year finally with the Bucks. And there was some breaks. A fully healthy Nets team is really, really scary. And obviously they kind of threw the corpse of James Harden out there for a couple of those games. So, as I said earlier, you can only play who's in front of you, and this team earned this championship. It's pretty freaking unreal. I mean, a Wisconsin State team. I can't get over it. It's been 3 days. I still can't believe a team in Wisconsin is world champions. It's been 10 years. I mean, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, and if you're talking about just Milwaukee, it's been a much longer than I've been alive. Obviously, we all celebrated in 2011, but you're right. It's been quite some time for the city of Milwaukee. Okay, so leading up to the playoffs, we have Giannis who had missed some time with a knee injury, and we're going to talk about that knee injury eventually. What were your thoughts going into the playoffs? Now it's easier, to talk about now, and we can say they were destined to be champions. But I'm going to be honest with you. I had I forgot the guy's name. He's a Locked On Heat podcast host for the Miami Heat, and he picked the Heat in 5 games. Like they were so confident that they were going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And a part of me was a little bit fearful as well, just because of that mental aspect of what happened last year. Now, going into the playoffs, what were your thoughts going up against the Miami Heat?
Felt good about the Heat series from the get-go, right? I mean, I think we kind of realized, speaking of peaking at the right time, they did that. They caught lightning in a bottle in the bubble, right? And that was, frankly, what it was. I mean, you came out, you saw that the Bucks were a much more dominant team. I mean, not only did they win in Heat guys predicted 5, they swept the Miami Heat. The Heat didn't even win 1 game, let alone 4 of them. So, I mean, you realize, okay, yes, this team is very, very good right in that series. And I felt like that's what that series would tell us. There was 4 really good teams, I feel, and I wasn't really counting the Hawks at that point, but there was 4 really good teams in the Eastern Conference, I felt at that point. And the Milwaukee Bucks were certainly atop that list.
Going into that series, it was obviously going to go, 1 or 2 ways. If they got over the Miami Heat, depending on who they were going to play in the second round, and we all kind of assumed it would be Brooklyn.
Right.
I would say that if they beat Miami, and I didn't expect Brid Forbes to outscore Jimmy Butler in that series, the same Brid Forbes that didn't really play in this finals. But I said if they could get through Miami, I didn't expect it to be a sweep. I was going to say this team, to myself, I said, mentally this team is different. They're going to be different. They're going to push Brooklyn no matter what. Now, going into that series with Brooklyn, the Milwaukee Bucks do sweep the Miami Heat. Now you're going up against arguably 3 of the top 10 players in the National Basketball Association. Obviously, James Harden went out in the first 40 seconds of game 1.
Right.
What were your thoughts going into that round 2 with the Brooklyn Nets?
Whoever won that series was going to win the NBA title. I think a lot of us felt that way, right? Yep. It was clear that at that point, those were probably the 2 best teams in the NBA. Obviously, we were seeing the reigning champion Lakers. They were out at that point, actually, I think. They got bounced. And the Heat also got bounced in the first round. So at that point, you realized, okay, the guys at the top are these 2 teams. So I thought, you know what, if we go down here, you lost to the best team in the NBA. But again, in that case, we were thinking total overload, get rid of Bud. John Horst is making good moves. It's just a matter of we didn't see all of them come to full fruition yet, like we did in the Eastern Conference Finals and the Finals. But again, you can only play who's in front of you. They did that with Brooklyn, and they beat who a lot of people thought was not only the best player in the playoffs, but the best player in the world, and Kevin Durant, who did have a phenomenal series, right? So when the Bucks were very bad, quick side note here, I was a big Thunder fan. I'm 22. So I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. And this guy's going to the Sonics. And then obviously they become the Thunder. I just thought he was fascinating to watch play at Texas and then in the league. And then when he jumped ship, that's when I jumped ship. I went back to my obviously home state team because they started to become pretty solid. And I always cheered for the Bucks regardless. Yeah. But Kevin Durant, I think he made the weakest move in NBA history. But damn it, is he fun to watch play. He is, and that series really showed that. I mean, he is a special basketball player.
And if he wore the size shoe that he, is supposed to wear, he wears a size, I think it's a whole size bigger or half size bigger because of the comfort of. When they went down 0-2 to Brooklyn, what's going through your head? For me, I'll be honest with you. We're Wisconsin fans. I'm like, well, that's probably it. Yeah. What were your thoughts after going down 0-2? And then remember, game 2, they lost by 40 points.
Yes. I mean, it was an absolute blowout. So definitely I wasn't feeling as confident as maybe I'm about to make myself sound, but we talked about it a little bit earlier in the show, Brandon, right? They play so well at home and they just need to steal one on the road. It's a little bit more difficult now down 2-0, but I thought they would tie it back up. And I think, after losing 40 points, they were going to come out hot in game 3. They did. They ended up winning that one by a boatload. And then game 4, I think, was a little bit closer, but they still ended up winning pretty handedly. So, I felt good, but it was a matter of going and stealing one on the road, and they eventually did that in game 7. So, I mean, that was an all-time series right there. That was, in my opinion, the best series of the entire NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I'm excited to go back and watch that. I do want to. It's so stressful for me. I tell my girlfriend, she's sitting on the couch and I'm, sweating and all kinds of crap. And I'm like, this isn't enjoyable for me. I love this team. It's the same thing with the Packers and the Brewers, but it's I can't enjoy it.
So you're not a fan of a close game. You would.
No.
So if I could present you with a prompt, right? Me and my buddy in the Deer District on Tuesdays, he asked me this question. So I'll pose it for you. Would you rather win in a blowout, you can celebrate early, they're going to win come the beginning of the fourth quarter, or down to the wire, back and forth, and they pull it out? Which you would rather win in a blowout fashion?
That's a great question, because I said the same exact thing to my girlfriend. We were down in the Deer District with my mom and my sister, and I said I just want to be up 20 in the fourth quarter so I can enjoy it. I want to be able to enjoy it. I don't want to be sitting there. My palms are sweaty. Just my anxiety's running through my body, trying to figure out. We've been there with so many Packer losses that have come down to the last second. Obviously, obviously in the NFC Championship game just recently. I don't want another letdown. So when I was at the Deer District on Tuesday, I said, regular season, I don't care. If it's a close game, it's not the end of the world. To win a championship, Alex, I want to be up 30, and then I'll be happy, and then I'll be content, because I'm way too nervous, and I'm always waiting for that shoe to fall. I'm always waiting for it.
Totally. And I feel that, man. And, looking back on it, it was nice because we could celebrate with some time left. 3 seconds,
we did. Right? We
did. I'd rather that than zeros, I guess. But no, I totally get it. I get both sides of that one.
It's looking back and we'll move on to the Atlanta series, but looking at that Brooklyn series, it's kind of crazy when you look back at it, because I was looking at it yesterday, and they were this close from losing game 3 at home against Brooklyn. It was a really ugly game. They won 86-83. It was a last second.
What was that one? Okay, I think I had my games backwards. Yes.
Yeah, it was that one where Drew Holiday got the steal late, and then had that. Brooklyn thought he was going to call timeout, and he laid it in, and they went up by 3, and then obviously they went on to win that game. But it was just kind of one of those games where, if you look at a championship team, and every championship team has it. The Packers had it in 2011. You know it's your run when it's your run. Looking back, and had they have lost game 3, and again they were very close to losing that game, we're not talking about a championship parade or celebration, because being down 3-0. Against Brooklyn, against Kevin Durant, winning 4 out of the next 5 is probably going to come impossible. So it's crazy to just look back and see how close they really were. Now moving on to Atlanta, the Bucks beat Brooklyn in 7 games, as we talked about. That Sunday, after they had beat Brooklyn on Saturday night, you got Atlanta and Philly. Your thoughts going into Sunday? Were you rooting for Atlanta? Were you rooting for Philly? When Atlanta won, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I didn't really. I guess I didn't have a preference. I think I'd rather see Atlanta, not because, obviously lower seed, home court advantage. Obviously, both of those things are great, but I thought there was more storylines. I was a big fan of the young stars that were shining in the playoffs, like Giannis, like Trae Young. Obviously, you have the storyline of Jeff Teague and Mike Budenholzer playing their former team the last time they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think it was the Eastern Conference Finals, right? They were there together. So, a lot of fun storylines in that series. Philly, maybe I'm just a hater, but I really wanted to see that fall apart. And I always have, I'm
with you on that
I
one.
never loved trust the process. I was never a big fan of it. I was just kind of waiting for it to blow up in their faces. And I think it finally did there. It's not that I'm not a fan of Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid or anything. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I typically don't hate Philly sports, but I just really don't like the Sixers. I don't know what it is. But I think I would rather see Atlanta. And, ultimately when we did, I thought, okay, this could be a really fun series. They're going to be sneaky. They tend to win game 1 on the road, and they did exactly that, obviously, in that Eastern Conference Finals. So I was looking forward to it either way, but definitely a fan of Atlanta more so than Philly.
I'm with you with the Philly thing, and I don't really know what it is either with the Bucks, because the Eagles, I don't, whatever, the Phillies and the Pirates, kind of whatever. But the 76ers, just, I always find myself rooting against them, and I think the only thing is I think the 2015 draft, was it the Jabari Parker year, or 2017, whatever year it was with Jabari Parker? Because remember Milwaukee had the first pick and Philly had the second pick, and they obviously took Joel Embiid. We took Jabari Parker. We all know how that went. So maybe that's it. And then you have the Christmas beatdown where they acted like they won the championship in December, where they beat the Bucks by 30 points. So I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I kind of always find myself rooting against Philly for whatever reason, but that's all right. So again, looking at this Atlanta series, you go into game 1, and it didn't look like the Bucks really took them serious. They obviously lost 116-113. Trae Young had the game of his life. He was accounted for 78 points out of the possible 116 points. So they lose game 1.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts after that loss? Were you okay, here we go again? I mean, what were you kind of thinking?
No, I was still very confident. I figured, they're going to sneak one out, but the Bucks will take control of the series. And of course, Bucks and 6 only picks up speed as you go along in the playoffs. So I was all on board with Bucks on 6. I luckily bet on that before the series started. So that worked out in my favor a little bit. But I felt pretty confident about the Bucks still winning that series, no matter the result of game 1. Set it up in game 2 and then move on. And obviously you wanted to split at home, but now you got to go steal one on the road, which I was pretty confident they could do.
Speaking of stealing one on the road, they go to Atlanta. The Milwaukee Bucks won game 3. They won game 2 and game 3. So you put them up, they're up 2-1.
Take control of the series, right?
Take control of the series. You're going into game 4 and you're like, this is, You win this one and it's over. You're going back to Milwaukee and winning in 5. That was my thought. And then you see the injury and you see the knee with Giannis is obviously who I'm talking about. I don't know about you, Alex. I cried that night. Giannis is so just so you know, I've said it on my show, so you have a little bit of backstory. I said, and I almost mean that I love Giannis as much as I love my kids. Like I defend him. I defend him like I would my children. I'm
okay with that.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought it was done. Like I thought that whole day, I felt like I lost. This sounds super dramatic, but I felt like I lost a family member or a friend. Like I felt so crushed because a guy that worked endlessly to try to bring a championship to Milwaukee, who committed with the Supermax, who could have went anywhere and decided to stay at Milwaukee, who was dominating the playoffs, who beat Kevin Durant in a game 7. And then to see him go down with kind of like a freak injury, I thought he was done.
No, we all did. We all thought he was done. We all thought the ride was done. We just forgot that Giannis is a freaking robot, and he was fine a week later. It just makes no sense because, as you know, I said multiple times during that stretch of that week, I said, you know, if I was Giannis, right, and my knee bends that way, I'm still laying up in the hospital and not dropping 20 points and 17 rebounds in game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just not what's happening if I'm in his shoes. But yeah, that was tough. And you know, I still felt like the Bucks were the better team in that series. Obviously, there was a Trae Young injury situation going on there too. So the best 2 players were, if not out, you know, really not at 100%. So you figured, okay, you know, this is a time for Chris Middleton to show what he's got, and Drew Holiday obviously as well. But all eyes were on 22, and he pulled through.
Yeah, you talk about Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, and I want to get your thoughts on that performance out of those 2. And you could even add it in Brook Lopez, game 5, he had 33 points, kind of just played out of his mind. Giannis is obviously down. He's out for game 5. He's been ruled out for game 6. Are you confident at this moment in the Milwaukee Bucks? Like, obviously you're still the better team, I think, even with kind of a hurting Trae Young. Were you as confident as like obviously now we're champions, but like back then a couple weeks ago, were you did your confidence waver at all?
Oh yeah, I mean if you don't have Giannis against Phoenix, you're not winning the series. I mean, and obviously we saw 50 reasons in game 6, but obviously a ton more reasons throughout the series. You're not winning that series without Giannis. So no, I was not confident. I thought, okay, cool. They win the Eastern Conference Finals. They got out of the champagne room, as my friend Greg Scalzo says a lot, right? So I mean, they finally did it, and I thought they could still do it, just given the situation with Atlanta. But I did not feel confident about them winning the NBA Finals without Giannis, and luckily they didn't even have to try.
So they beat Atlanta, Bucks in 6. Obviously, now that every kid in America. Real quick before I forget, a funny story. My son is 5, and last night he was taking a shower, and I had the bathroom door. It was like kind of slightly open, because obviously I help him, and I'm hearing yelling out of the bathroom, and I'm like, so I stopped doing the dishes. I walk over to the bathroom. As soon as I get like a step in front of the door, you hear him chanting, "Bucks in 6." Bucks in
that man
6.
rocks.
And I walk in, and
He's
I'm
never
just
been more proud.
And I at that moment, Alex, you know, I knew I was doing a good job as a father. Right. No matter what else happens, I knew at that moment that I was doing great. But obviously, the Bucks go into Phoenix. How confident were you going up against in game 1? We were really unsure about Giannis. I think it was like a couple hours before game time before we knew that he was playing. Looking back at that game 1, prior to that game 1, what was kind of going through your head?
I thought it was a loss, just straight up. I mean, no matter what happened with Giannis, I thought, they're not winning game 1 at Phoenix, and obviously they didn't. But when Giannis, before that game, I'm not feeling confident. After that game, I knew it was over. I knew the Bucks were winning that series. I declared it that next morning, across ESPN Wisconsin on Willie and Tausch was filling in that day. I said, they're winning the series. It's Bucks in 6. And luckily I feel like a genius now, but I was just committed to the bit. Right. And, you look at just what Giannis did in that game, 20 and 17. Okay, that's good, right? That's average Giannis, pretty solid outing, and you're feeling okay. It's only up from here. He's only going to get better. That's how health works, right? I mean, assuming he doesn't tweak anything, God forbid, I think they're going to be okay. It takes a little bit to feel a team out. They only played them 3 times in the regular season. They hadn't seen them in several months. They've obviously been focused on the road ahead in the Eastern Conference. Didn't have a lot of time to prep. Didn't know if Giannis would be there. There was a lot of question marks for the Bucks in Game 1. But when Giannis comes out and does that, this team is going to be okay. He looks like he's almost at full strength, and this injury actually isn't an issue, whereas we thought it would be the entire series. It's just pretty incredible. Like I said earlier, we just forgot he was a fucking robot. Excuse my French.
No,
it's just
fine.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I was in the Dells. We take a family vacation every year. So the first 2 games we were in the Dells, and I'm not going to lie, man. I'm going to be completely honest with you. After they lost Game 1, I kind of expected that. Obviously, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton had the best games of their series. Coincidentally enough, that was the only good game they ever really played in this series. And then Devin Booker went off in Game 2, and they really didn't miss a 3. It felt like in that Game 2. I told my mom. My mom's a huge Bucks fan. My dad, obviously my whole family. And I said, you know what? Like, if they don't win, I'm really just happy to be here. And I kind of was content with that. Obviously, I wanted to win, but I was truly
a little bit more content today than you were at that.
I'm a very much more content today, but I was almost like, okay, like, it's okay if they don't. Like, I'm proud of them. First off, we thought Giannis was done until 2023. And then we won the Eastern Conference Finals. We got over that hump where we haven't been in a championship game as a Bucks organization since 1974. So I remember telling myself, like, it's okay if they don't win. And then I remember winning Game 3 by 20, and I said, okay, now we need to win, because anything else after this I'm going to be mad at. And then you go to Game 4, and something that is going to be put in the history books for Bucks fans, the block. Take me through you're watching it. Take me through what you're thinking on that play, on that possession.
To give you a comparison, right? Like, I had the same pop for that I had for when Aaron Rodgers threw his first Hail Mary in Detroit. Like, it was the same reaction. It was just like, holy smokes, is that real life? And, I didn't want to quite overreact. I think now we can finally actually have this discussion. That ranks, if not above, right next to the LeBron block. I mean, obviously the implication's a little bit different. That was a Game 7. Essentially won the game for LeBron and company. But it was, right there. From the pure athleticism standpoint, there's only few people. There's really only one person that could.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else is making that. Yeah,
it's Giannis. And, it's pretty unbelievable. And then obviously the steal and alley-oop the next game. That's when you realize, that's like the Nick Collins pick 6. Those were the moments that happened. And you realize, okay, this is a championship team. These are the moments you remember. And to get it done in 6 was just so poetic.
Shout out to Adam. He's watching over on YouTube. He says, better than LeBron's block in 2016. And I'm biased. I don't care. Exactly. It is way better than LeBron's, because LeBron had, his was a Game 7. His was a defining moment in their championship, win. But he was running down court full speed. He was able to time it. We've seen Giannis do it like a dozen times during the season. Not that I can do it, but it's for them. I don't think it's as complicated. So to see Giannis and then to hear him talk about, he saw Devin Booker's hand go over like he was going to throw an alley-oop, and that's in his mind when he turned around. And he also said he didn't know where DeAndre Ayton was. He just went up and he thought he was going to get dunked on. And the athleticism again. People need to remember he almost lost his knee just like a week or two prior to that.
2 weeks before that.
2 weeks before that. And for him to, they say Eric Name of The Athletic quoted it best. He defended the alley and the oop. Like he was, helps weak side help for Devin Booker. And then he flipped around and blocked it. I think it's the greatest block in finals history. And here's the thing about people say, well, LeBron's was a Game 7 and they won. If Giannis doesn't block that shot, the Bucks go down 1. Who knows what happens? They probably lose the series being down 3-1 if Phoenix wins that game. That won you Game 4. It secured the win. Yeah. You tied the series at 2-2. Obviously, history speaks for itself. I'm not sure if they win without that block.
No, they probably don't. And again, it's a hypothetical I don't like arguing, because you look at what he did. It's almost disrespectful to what he accomplished there. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's the most unbelievable block. I've ever been a fan of, I should say, right? Like, I'm a Bucks fan, so I saw that and I'm like, holy! I mean, that's just who does that? Who does as a pure basketball fan? It's like, how do you even do that? And that's how I felt about the LeBron block, right? I mean, it's just. I get he's, obviously in great position and gets there, but oh my goodness, how do you do that? Like, that was disrespectful to Andre Iguodala. What LeBron did.
It was.
So I mean, when you look at those blocks, they're just the two best blocks of all time. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, no debating that. And shout out to LeBron. I mean, that was obviously a huge pivotal moment in that game. So obviously the Bucks tie the series. They go back to Phoenix. I actually went to the Pfizer Forum to do the watch party, and shout out to the Pfizer Forum, the Deer District area. I mean, there was a moment in Game 5 where my ears were like, "This is really loud," like it hurt, and I'm actually deaf in one ear, so like watching a game in the Pfizer Forum, it was only half filled. They didn't have the upper bowl filled up. Going into Game 5, you're watching Game 5. The Bucks win. Your thoughts after winning Game 5?
You had to steal one on the road to win the series. That's what they did, and they had won 3 in a row. They looked like the better team. I felt unbelievably confident going into Tuesday. I knew the series was over. You return home, 1 win away, with the opportunity to win in Milwaukee. Hearing Giannis and Drew and Chris and Bud talk to the media, you knew how locked in they were. They weren't celebrating yet, being up 3-2 and only 1 win away. They knew the job was not done, and it showed on Tuesday, man. And Game 6 was just ridiculous. It was incredible. You knew Giannis was going to single-handedly will them to the title. He was playing as hard as he absolutely could. I think he got called for goaltending like 3 times.
He did. Yeah, he did.
It's just like, this guy's going to do everything he can to win a title in Milwaukee tonight and solidify the world championship. And he did just that with a 50-burger and just pure athleticism and pure love for it was just an unbelievable showing by Giannis in Game 6 and by the Bucks. It was it felt like destiny, man. Bucks and 6.
We've been living with that chant for almost half of our lives. Talking with Alex Strofe of ESPN Madison, also friend, also works with our friends over at Game On Wisconsin. You were down in the Deer District for Game 6. I was there as well.
Yes.
I've never really been to a concert. I can't really ever put in my mind that I've been anywhere with a crowd the size that it was. Now, like I said earlier in the show, it was reported that there was 100,000 fans outside watching. I tend to believe that after waiting an hour and a half to use the bathroom. The Bucks go on to win Game 6. They are champions. Your thoughts on the environment, the Deer District in itself? Like, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so let me walk you through my night a little bit, because it was interesting. So I live in Madison now. I drove over to Milwaukee. It told me an hour and 10 minutes to get to my buddy's house. It took almost 3 hours. And this was at 4 p.m. until about 7 o'clock just to get to Milwaukee. So I realized right then and there, right, the city is going to be ridiculous tonight. And I mean, I think I kind of expected that going in. I just didn't take the trip to take, almost 3 times what it should have. So I get there, we get on the bus, we head downtown, we get into the Deer District. It was pretty nuts, right? Like, obviously you mentioned it, just a wave of people, very hard to operate. It's about 30 minutes before the game. I say to my buddy, let's go get a beer now, so we don't have to do it again. Let's go grab 2 beers. Let's go find a spot. Let's park it for the game, and then we'll do whatever else after the game if we're celebrating or crying, depending on the result, right? So we wait in line. Game's about to tip. The people at the concession stand by me, and we were on the old Bradley Center grounds.
That's where I was.
Oh, nice. So we were probably in a very similar area then. So we were over by that stand. People say, we're out of drinks. We're out.
I remember that.
And I was about 5 people back at that point. So I stuck it out. And I just waited at that table. And, they bring out, I would say maybe 100 tops. Canned drinks. Can't even tell what they are. I hand this dude my credit card. I say, just give me one. Let's go. I need a drink. I'm gonna go park it. He hands me a canned Bloody Mary that is warm. So like I got nothing against Bloody Marys.
Wow.
But 8 p.m. when it's 80 degrees outside, I'm not feeling like drinking heartburn. Like I just don't really want to drink straight up heartburn. So I did anyway. And that was the one drink I had during the game. So my mouth tasted like the wonderful vegetable / fruit tomato the entire game. And then luckily after the game, we were able to find, Good City Brewing right there by the Deer District. We were able to grab a couple Pilsners, a normal celebration drink. But that was my frustration. Luckily, I didn't have to wait in the line for the bathrooms. After the game, obviously, pure pandemonium, people partying, people celebrating. We walked around the city with our beers for a while, just looked at the trash in the road and the people partying in the streets and people climbing poles. And when I left the Deer District, there was this bigger dude, probably, I don't know, maybe mid-20s, just like leaned up on a concrete block in just his boxers yelling, F you, I'm a world effing champion, and flipping everybody off. And I was just like, I feel you, dude. I love that. So no, it was definitely a blast. It was the most unbelievable atmosphere I've ever been a part of, hands down. And I stayed out until almost 4 a.m. that night because it was just like, I'm not going to sleep. I'm celebrating this. I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened. A title actually won in the city of Milwaukee. So yeah, I wasn't leaving that atmosphere until I absolutely had to. And it was pretty unreal.
Yeah. I tell people that because a lot of people that I'm friends with, I was in the Army for a while. So I kind of got friends all over the world, and I get a bunch of calls and texts, prior to that game. And they're like, what's the Deer District like? And I'm sitting there thinking of like, what words to use to describe it.
How do you compare it? Like you can't compare it to anything.
Right. And I said this, and I, again, everybody that knows me knows I'm Homer and biased. The Packers are the best team in the world. The Bucks are clearly the best team in the world. The Brewers are the best. And I said, to me, there's nothing to put it up against. The Jurassic Park in Toronto holds 5,000 people. We're talking about 100,000 people outside, Alex, of the arena. There's 20,000 inside. And we're talking about outside the arena in all of professional sports, outside of maybe over in Europe with soccer, because I'm sure they've probably had a viewing party of in American professional sports, basketball, football, baseball.
There's really not a comp. I
don't think there's a comparison. I really don't. And maybe if I sit there and scratch my brain and hit Google up, I don't think there is. And I remember I'm kind of where you're at with it. Fireworks are going off. I immediately get in line to get my championship gear. My credit card is looking at me like, dude, what did you just spend on? Because I went all in because, again, I don't know if I'll ever have this moment again with the imploding and happening up at 1265. I'm not sure if I'll see another championship, eventually, hopefully we will with Giannis again. But I'm kind of with you. I remember I was with my mom and my girlfriend. My sister had left at that point. And I said, I just want to walk around. I just want to walk around and take this in because I don't know what to, I didn't know what to expect. When the Packers won the Super Bowl, I live in Milwaukee. I live about 10 minutes away from the Pfizer Forum. Oh, nice. So I wasn't there. And at that moment, I was in the Army. So I wasn't able to go to Lambeau Field to celebrate a championship. This was the first time in my life that I was able to be there for a championship team in the city I live in and the celebration. And I didn't know how to act, so I just kind of walked around. I saw the people jumping in the river. And I don't know, hopefully they don't have like superpowers right now, jumping in the Milwaukee River. It's not probably the cleanest. You're risking a lot there. But I remember just soaking it in, like, taking in everything, obviously pictures and videos and just being so like speechless that this team was world champions, that they have won an NBA championship. Giannis delivered, that skinny kid from Greece, where we weren't sure how to pronounce his name. No offense to him or his family, but we didn't know, who he was when we drafted him, and he decided to stick in Milwaukee. And not only did he win in Milwaukee, I was there in 2019 when he won they presented him his first MVP trophy in the Deer District. And I remember him saying, don't call me an MVP until I win the big trophy is what he called it. And to see him deliver on that and to see the growth for him, not only as a player, but as a human being, now expecting his second child and raising a family in our city, just meant more to me than anything I've ever been as far as professional sports.
Totally. I mean, he's the most relatable guy, probably the most likable athlete in Wisconsin history. I mean, you've got the accessibility. We talked about this on the Jump Around a couple of days ago on ESPN Madison. Who's the most likable athlete in Wisconsin sports history? And the one response we got besides Giannis was Bart Starr.
Yeah.
But my argument there still is, as loved as he was, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from Bart. You don't have the accessibility you have to Giannis, right? I mean, the next morning, 12 hours after winning a freaking NBA championship and an NBA Finals MVP, he's on Instagram Live in the Chick-fil-A drive-thru. I mean,
gold.
It doesn't get better than that. It's unbelievable. So, he's really, really, really something special, and we're lucky. We're lucky to have a guy like him because I don't think he's going anywhere.
We really do. Just a few more minutes here before we do wrap up the podcast. I do want to ask you kind of a quick question. I have it written down and highlighted. In your opinion, do you think Giannis saved the NBA? You heard him after, and the reason I asked that is because you heard him after his press conference, and we know who he was talking about. We know it was the LeBron James, the James Harden, the Kevin Durant's. Talking about doing the championship, winning a title the hard way. Arguably the greatest finals performance we have ever seen. Arguably the greatest closeout performance anybody has ever seen. Do you think that Giannis saved the NBA in regards to winning a championship in the fourth smallest market in the National Basketball Association and without a number 2 superstar?
Oh, man, that's a fun one. I'm going to say no, but hear me out here. I think we kind of got the we kind of got the answer to that question, I think, 2 years ago. And I think when Kawhi Leonard won a title with Toronto, really changed the direction of the association. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? Mid 2010s, it was the same teams. It was the Warriors and the Cavs or whatever team LeBron was on, really the entirety of the 2010s, right? So, no, I don't think Giannis saved the NBA by any means. The NBA wasn't going to go anywhere regardless, but I think he has certainly established that there's more parity than there's been in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think that started with Kawhi in Toronto. LeBron gets it done in LA, but LA, I mean, the Lakers were so bad for like 8 years there. So that wasn't like it was a super team by any means. Obviously, they have 2 superstars, but I think parity's back, and it's further established again with Giannis doing it in the city he was drafted to, building something from scratch essentially, and ultimately becoming what I think we can probably say is the best player in the world right now. Maybe a little recency bias. You can always make the case for KD and Kawhi and LeBron, but at the end of the day, who won the finals? Who won the finals MVP? Who's won 2 of the last 3 MVP awards? Who's won one of the last 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards? I mean, he's done it all, and he's furthered his legacy. He's taken away any doubt about him. So no, I don't think he saved the NBA necessarily, but I think he has certainly furthered the narrative that parity is so much better for sports. And the NBA was the one league that was really lacking that for an extensive period of time. So Giannis certainly helped make the NBA more appealing to the casual fan. I think that's how I'll answer that question. Good question, though.
Totally fair, and it's just something that kind of crossed my crossed my brain when you're looking at a finals, because every year, like you said, wherever LeBron goes, they're in the finals, or it's the Warriors. LeBron has never won a championship without a fortified number 2 superstar. Kevin Durant has never won a championship without a number 2 superstar. Steph Curry, and the list kind of goes on. Outside of maybe Kawhi and the Toronto Raptors, whether you consider
Dirk and the Mavs.
Dirk and the Mavs is probably the last one. I mean, to be honest with you, and shout out to Jacob. He's on the live feed over on YouTube right now. It's probably the Dallas Mavericks as the last team to win a championship without a quote unquote super team. So it kind of
Toronto and then Dallas.
Yeah, I Toronto.
You really want to call that a super team?
Not necessarily a super team, but you're kind of right, but I don't want you to be right. Does that make sense?
Well, I want me to be right. So
because I mean, Kyle Lowry, I mean, he's a certified all-star. I mean, or yeah,
well,
I mean,
yes, occasionally those years, yes. I mean, he's solid, but he's always had a big time star leading the way. DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard. I guess now you could make the argument for Pascal Siakam. I think that was not a super team.
It's not a super team in regards to what we're. You're right. You're right. And
I love hearing those two.
And
words.
I'm sour. I'm sour with the 2019 Toronto Raptors.
Fair.
But
obviously, they did knock out Milwaukee. But
yeah. So I was down at the Deer District yesterday for the celebration. Did you have a chance to be down there at all?
I was not down there. No, I was here in Madison producing our coverage of the parade. So I was watching it, but I was not there.
That's cool. Yeah. What were your thoughts? I mean, there's a little bit of back and forth with people. They said it should have been better. It should have been bigger. It felt like they were just trying to get it over with because obviously Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are flying out to Tokyo I think today, actually.
Today,
yeah. So your thoughts on like the parade and then we'll get kind of the show wrapped up.
No, yeah. I mean, it was cool. I just I don't know. Yeah, obviously it was quickly thrown together. I think the parade itself, again, obviously I wasn't there, so you might have a better read, but from the multiple angles I was either seeing or hearing it from, it seemed like it was a lot of fun. Obviously, Coach Bud was catching beers from the crowd and chugging them. PJ Tucker going absolutely bananas, getting just slammed, which was awesome. You always need somebody to do that. If I was part of a championship team, that'd be my role, right? Like I'd just be crushing beers and, say, "We dogs" into the microphone. PJ Tucker won that parade yesterday. It was cool to see Giannis, celebrate with his brother Thanasis, who is like in a car and popping champagne because he's in protocols.
I still don't understand that though. He didn't test positive, so I don't know.
I wasn't even sure.
He did not. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, he did not test positive, but I think it was inconclusive. There was something weird with it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's not vaccinated.
Yeah,
so there might be something there. Yeah. It's obviously there's a lot of rules around that I don't understand still.
Same.
But no, overall, I thought it was well done. The one knock I would actually take on it, though, I think Zora Stevenson did a fantastic job. And I love that they did the introductions and kind of the groupings. Like that was good. But I would have just liked to see PJ Tucker grab the mic or Bobby Portis just grab the mic and talk to the people. But again, I thought Zora did a great job with it. And it was fun to hear from everybody. So I thought it was really neat overall. But I understand. I mean, I saw that bus driver was flying out of the parking garage to kick off the parade. I thought that was funny. But overall, man, it was a celebration. It was a culmination of something legendary and something that lives in eternal greatness, right? They're the 2021 NBA champs, and nobody can tell them otherwise ever again. So really, really neat, and it was cool to see, celebration just 2 days after winning it.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a rush celebration. Obviously, like I just mentioned, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, they got to get out of here. Devin Booker's waiting on them. That's going to be maybe an awkward plane.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I was there. I was in about 7 people from the front row. I took all my kids, my family. We all went out there. PJ Tucker was absolutely annihilated on that stage, and it was awesome. Yeah. And then he went out. I don't know if you saw. I'm sure you probably did. He went to the Harp afterwards and completely shut the bar down. Like was buying everybody drinks.
That's awesome.
And going absolutely nuts. I thought it was fine. I mean, look. We'll get better with the celebrations, in my opinion. I think we'll have a few more in the career with Giannis. I'm okay with it. It was about celebrating the team. I think they were completely gassed, man, to be honest with you. I think that team was just exhausted after that run and just a crazy really, if you look at it, calendar year with COVID and then the bubble and then the start of the regular season really quick after the bubble. So
yeah,
I think we'll get better. But I do appreciate you hopping on the Brew City Lounge. That'll do it for today's episode. He is Alex Strouf. I highly recommend following him on Twitter at Alex_Strouf. I am your host, Brandon. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. And please do not forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you may get your podcasts, available on all platforms, and also follow the show on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, at Brew City Pod. That'll do it for today's show. I hope everyone out there has a wonderful weekend. Go Brewers, big series with the White Sox. I promise next week, ladies and gentlemen, I will talk Brewers. For next time, that'll do it. You guys have a great weekend. As always, go Bucks, go Brewers. Be safe, Milwaukee, and I'll talk to you guys later. See you.
Bucks and 6.